Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be continuing now with Ece Temelkuran. I don't know if the people at the back will be taking a seat or leaving or entering. Either
Run
way.
away as soon as possible.
Yes.
You'll be stuck here.
She's just joking. Ece, welcome.
Hello.
So what is your the book of your life?
This is not the first time I talk about this book. I talked about it during the Freedom Lecture in Amsterdam a few years ago, in 2013. Do you hear me? All right.
Okay.
The book of my life is a children's book. It's called Little Black Fish.
Uh-huh.
And it's written by Samet Behrengi, an Iranian writer. And he was killed during the Shah regime. He was drowned in a river because of his political views. He wrote this book during the Shah era, obviously.
So before Khomeini.
Yeah, and this was the first book that my mother read to me.
Ah.
And I'm a firm believer in the first books. They somehow, determine your destiny in a way. And this book, when I look back now, I see that it actually determined my destiny. And there's a tragic funny story about it. My mother was a socialist. The party is going on somewhere else, I can tell you that from the voice.
Yeah, but this is the intellectual talk, so yeah.
Yeah, my mother is still a socialist, but then she was a Maoist and she was imprisoned.
In Turkey.
And then my father rescued her as a young lawyer, and they got married, and therefore me.
Yeah.
So when I was 5 years old, my mother read me this book. And the story goes, it's very easy. There's this little blackfish. He's living in a river. And then he one day decides to go to the big sea to see the other things, to see the world. And he sticks his knife, and then he goes to the big sea, and he meets animals, blah, 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 blah. Adventures. And then he comes back, and he tells his stories to the other fish.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my mother's version. Although, after I was 20 years that I found out, actually the story does not go like that. The story goes on. The blackfish decides to go to the big sea, and then adventures and all the fun stuff, all the horrible stuff as well. And then nobody hears from him anymore. This is the real story, and my mother changed the ending of the story, which actually determined my life. Because I always thought that I was go around the world, keep writing stories, and then I go back home, and everybody will listen to me.
Yeah.
Without knowing the real ending of this story, I already, draw my path.
Yeah.
So now it's too late to go back and to acknowledge that I might not go home at all. Nobody might not hear from me anymore, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So this is what you can do with your child. This is a very, very bad mother who taught me that stories will end good.
Well, but your mother maybe wanted you to come back to her each time and again, so maybe that wasn't a bad
But
thing.
that little twist can, determine your life. And this is not a joke, by the way. This is real. And I was 8 years old. She bought me a poetry notebook. It was written poetry notebook on it. So therefore I thought I had to write poetry. Although I didn't know that actually you were supposed to, recite poetry in that notebook. Anyway, therefore I became a poet maybe. And then in the beginning of this notebook, I was 8 years old, and she wrote two lines from a poet that is her favorite, and it is very, very roughly something like this: I want everything to be like a man. The hostility and the brotherhood as well. So I always thought that this is a great line as well. And then I was 24 again, that I learned that the following line is actually, it never happens. So my mother kept on cheating me about these important things about life,
Yeah.
I should say.
And she formed you in that way.
Yeah.
She really.
Now I am this naive person who believes in, happy endings and
Yeah. And
human relationships.
Yeah. Keep on believing despite, reality. I mean,
No, it's yeah.
you have to believe, right? Because if you don't, what else?
I was going to
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to believe, maybe. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's an ethical and a very important choice what to believe in. So if you believe in God, you're really lucky.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you believe in human being, your job is very, very hard. And I
Yeah.
think as a writer, being a writer is sort of making a deliberate decision and determined decision to believe in human being.
Yeah.
But then human being is such an asshole, as we all know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not easy
No.
to believe in this creature.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about human beings and being assholes, but when you talk about the little black fish, you know what it reminded me of? Little Nemo.
Nemo?
Yeah, the animation.
Yeah.
The little fish that goes out and sees all these different fish, and then in the end returns and finds his daddy.
But then
finds
he's
him.
looking for his father.
Yeah.
My guy is looking for adventure.
For adventure. Are you always
Story
looking
and so
for
on.
adventure?
I was. Now I'm 43. Like I'm really old now.
Oh, stop it! I'm 43 as well. What am I supposed to say?
No, interesting is not interesting anymore.
No.
I mean, as a concept, interesting is not attracting my attention, which is horrible. I lived in many places.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, aftermaths of war.
Yeah.
I've seen torture. I've seen horrible things. I've seen amazing things in Argentina, in Venezuela, in India, everywhere. And because once you were a journalist, I was a journalist for 20 years. So journalism, if you're a journalist, your job is about extraordinary.
Yeah.
Therefore, you are, constantly seeing extraordinary things. That's why, by the way, almost all the journalists become sort of alcoholics and so on. Anyway, therefore, one gets tired, or almost exhausted, by the idea of interesting.
Yeah.
I'm a very boring person. I was telling her, I'm so boring that I have to conceal it with leather pens.
Blemish it a little bit, yeah. and we were talking about interesting is not enough for you anymore. Human beings are assholes.
No, that was...
They can be assholes.
Human being is a very liquid concept.
Because they change constantly.
Yeah, and this is not the very good time to talk about human being. We are seeing the worst of it.
Yeah.
And when you're seeing the worst of it, it becomes an ethical duty
Yeah.
to believe in human being and therefore nourish the good in human being and do this through the words.
Yeah.
Which is not an easy business when you're constantly subjected to the horrors and evils of human beings. Today is the inauguration day of Trump,
Yeah.
and he's not the worst case. I'm telling you, he's just
One of many.
orange. But
Orange
then
monster.
we are seeing more proper looking people
Yeah.
who are far worse than Trump most probably, who are commanding the masses, who are mesmerizing the masses.
You're referring to Erdogan, I assume.
I'm not necessarily referring to
okay.
him, but there are many
Okay.
examples.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is our ethical duty, which is very hard to fulfill, to believe in human being and nourish the good in him by trying to, give him some words.
Yeah.
I think writing is translating human being to human beings,
Yeah.
because human beings, to the contrary, precedented understanding, human beings don't really speak their language very well.
True.
Human beings don't really speak human
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
And this is one of those times that we are having a language crisis, human language crisis, because we have this assumption that if we speak to a human being in the language of human being, touching your heart, his or her heart, if we tell him about the good things, if we can, tell him enough logical things to convince him to the truth, to the, good and so on, we believe, this is a very fundamental assumption, we believe that she or he will be moved, convinced and so on. But now we are in the age where we are actually losing that assumption. That assumption is not there anymore. Therefore, writing is becoming harder and harder. What are you going to do? Speak to the evil? What are you going to tell to the evil?
In a what they call a post-truth era, where truth is no longer truth and everything is like what you said, liquid. So how do you shape or create humanity in literature? How do you give people hope? How do you give people hope?
That was so cool, like sliding to the.
Oh, we should have.
He slid to.
How do you? Because I get that, of course. When we started this evening, I told people, we'll be erasing that whole image of Trump being inaugurated, and we'll be talking about literature, good books that make you forget that reality. But how do you do that? How do you reconnect to people and their humanity?
I'm not sure if writer has such a job or role or so or whatever. Although, being this naive person, I still believe that writing, people who know has a responsibility. They owe to the others who do not know. I think this remark makes me snub cosmopolitan intellectual and so on, but
only for an alt-right person, not for us.
Anyway, but I do believe that I owe, and if something is wrong, it's my mistake as well. But then hope. I've been talking about this a lot because everybody is very much into this hope concept. Everybody wants to be hopeful, and the constant question, especially these times, during these times, is like, is there hope? No, there is no hope. What are you going to do? This is my question, and therefore, I think we have to replace the need of hope with determination to create beauty. And this is more solid because hope is such a fragile word, such slippery. It doesn't hold. In these times because there are times that there is no hope, and we are witnessing, those times sometimes during these times. But then determination to create beauty is something you cannot take out of human being. You cannot do that. You can take the hope, but you cannot take the other thing. I was on Tunisia-Libya border. This is 2012, I think. And this is a horrible place. You cannot stand this place for 15 minutes. Imagine tents in the middle of the desert. Everything is yellow. There is no other color at all. Thousands of people from Black Africa have been waiting there under the sun for 6 months. It is seriously an insane place. And I was going around the tents. This is a refugee camp. Did I tell that? Yeah, it's a refugee camp. I was going around the tents, and then I saw this woman with her kid, three-year-old daughter. And she had a garden in the middle of the desert in front of her tent. And this garden was shaped with empty plastic bottles stuck to the ground. And the garden was in a heart shape. And she borrowed seeds from passing by Bedouins. And she planted these things. And this was the only color in this entire yellow wasteland. So you cannot take this. Because she's going to leave this place, most probably.
Hopefully.
Those plants will probably die. Even those plants are something, I couldn't understand what they are. But then she just wanted to create beauty. Because she needs it. Her eye needs to see a color. So you cannot take this out of human being. And I think this is solid and strong enough. to build our belief in humans,
Yeah.
especially in these times.
This story reminds me of a story that I read this week about a bakery in Aleppo, and in between the demolished buildings and the rubble and everything, this little pastry shop had a whole set of very colorful pastries and cakes in the midst of desolation and death, and it is beauty. It is insane, but it's also what you say. It's more tangible than hope.
I do believe that writing people has a duty. I have been. This is my second year. I didn't write a book. It's like it has been 2 years that my last novel is published in Turkey, and I didn't write anything in 2 years. I didn't start writing anything because I am too cynical at the moment. I am so pessimistic, and I feel like, okay, so what? Anybody can be that. If you are writing, you have to do better. If you cannot create beauty out of this, if you cannot find the beauty in this picture, so don't write. Why would you write anyway? Anybody can be like an adolescent, revolting, oh, I hate this life. Everything is horrible and so on. That is so easy to do. The hard job is to come up with a beautiful thing and create beauty out of this. So I'm trying to do the heart-shaped garden in the middle of the desert, and since I couldn't find the Bedouins yet and the whatever, I'm just stopping.
And is there some writing process in the horizon or not yet?
Well, I'm writing many stuff.
Yeah,
but not
the
a novel
beauty.
at the moment.
No.
Well, I'm fantasizing about a horrible idea for a novel, which I'm not going to tell, but it's a horrible idea. One shouldn't be writing that novel. That's why it is, attracting my attention so much. On the other hand, my books are published in several countries, so I am traveling a lot because of that. And
how about the little black fish that we started with? Is it still there somewhere in your memory or in your consciousness, attempting to influence your writing, attempting to get you to see beauty again?
I think I learned, I educated my eye to see the beautiful thing when it's really hard to see. I am still educating my eye, I should put it that way. I'm living in Zagreb now, and it was raining in Zagreb, and I'm an early riser, and you can still smoke in Zagreb cafes, which is wonderful. This is one of the reasons I live in Zagreb.
That's a very good reason.
I have this cafe, which is called Golf Cafe, and it's pretending to be very old English golf cafe, which is not. But then on Sundays, this is the only cafe that opens at 8 o'clock. So I'm this stupid person going to cafes at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. And it's only very old man and me. Grumpy, very old man and me. And the next, it was previous week, I think. I went there. It was raining outside. It's a small cafe. It's full of smoke. And at each table, there's a very, very old, very grumpy man reading sports or political magazine, whatever. And all of us are smoking. And all of a sudden, this young waiter started playing Riders on the Storm. So it was like amazing Balkan noir movie. It's like Riders on the Storm, and nobody's riding the storm there at all. So I thought, oh my God, this is so beautiful, and I'm so lucky to be in this picture now because it's a film, it's a movie now, and we're in it. One has to, grasp these moments and acknowledge the beauty. Otherwise, if you don't acknowledge, the beauty is not there. You have to put a name on it. You have to put your finger on the moment, I think.
Did you grab one of those grumpy old men and took him to dance?
Don't you think this is awesome? No, but what happened was interesting. The very, very young waiter was this cynical, volcanic guy. On the way out, he asked me, like, where are you from?
Yeah.
I said, Istanbul. And he said, I've never been there.
This is like Clark Gable.
Super Clark Gable. More like Jim Morrison, actually.
Okay.
I've never been there.
Yeah.
And I said, go before too late. And then, you know what he said? Oh, this is awesome. He said, I'm from Bosnia. Everywhere is too late for me.
Oh, wow. Wow.
This was like the opening scene, closing scene
Yeah.
of our movie, Riders on the Storm. So this is beautiful, right?
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's the best. It's the best anecdote to end this.
I'm
know,
from
wonderful.
Bosnia. Everywhere is too late for me.
We're from Holland.
You can use this.
We're
I'm
from
Den
Holland.
Haag.
Yeah.
Everywhere is too late for me.
Wait till you hear our stories here in Holland. You wouldn't believe it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.